Hey guys, I'm Brandon McReynolds. This is the Clear 28 podcast, Proven Driven, Born to Perform. Today I'm sitting down with my really good friend, Todd English, my business partner in Clear 28, a mentor of mine, and he's vice president of marketing and strategic partnerships for Roush Yates. All right, Todd. Well, obviously, we've been doing this podcast for a few months now, and man, first off, I can't thank you enough. I mean, I think a lot of people sometimes wonder about the connection point between where our office is with Clear 28 and being obviously based out of one of Doug Yates's buildings, right? But ultimately, I can't thank you enough for your friendship, your support, your leadership. Making that connection. I know you have a huge full-time role with Roush Yates, with the engine company. I know you have some involvement in manufacturing, and we'll jump into all that. But it's been a lot of fun, seeing you lead our agency also in the right direction and helping us set up our infrastructure and set up our culture and work with us on finding the right people and getting the right people involved. And just very thankful for that. But I think, having you on here, I wanted to really take some time and learn more about you and your background. And I know enough, but I don't think enough people out there know the impact that you have. And I say that obviously respectfully because I look up to you so much. But talk me through like how you got into motorsports and what roads led you to working with Doug Yates and being in the position you're in specifically over at Roush Yates.
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. I think my background's a little bit different than most probably in the sport. I was working for Philip Morris USA as soon as I got out of college and worked in sales and marketing for a few years. Moved over to the manufacturing facility there in Concord, where we manufactured about 850 million cigarettes a day. And I was responsible for the automated guided vehicles, their warehouse management system, SAP. So again, I was really handling a lot of the logistics and also material movement for the factory. When Philip Morris USA announced they were going to consolidate their factories, a lot of individuals went from Concord up to Richmond. I decided to kind of move forward with a different career and interviewed with Roush Yates Engines as same as manufacturing a component. The engine itself has about 865 items that go into it. And for us, we need full serialization, we need full history, we need anything and everything so we can determine how many components are in that engine and where they're physically located as well.
Dang, yeah, it's pretty wild to think about. Like growing up, were you into motorsports? Did you watch racing? Did you have a favorite driver? Did you know of the Yates family before you started with them? And what was that like?
Yeah, I think I smile at that because I think when we grew up, we didn't have cell phones, we didn't have websites, and for us, most of us went to church on Sunday, and as soon as you got out of church, right, you turned on the TV. And I think back in the 80s, right, NASCAR was really visible on the TV networks in the 90s, obviously, and I think that's what just we did. I grew up in High Point, North Carolina, which is about an hour and a half from Charlotte, and I think, again, after church on Sunday, that was our first thing to do is to get back, have some lunch, and watch the races at that time.
Who was someone that you would root for? Were you I'd say you're a Ford guy, obviously, but who was one of your favorite drivers or teams that was out there?
Yeah, thank goodness it was a Ford guy, so it was Awesome Bill from Dawsonville.
Oh yeah,
nice. In the Coors Light.
That's cool. That's awesome. Yeah, that's I'd say that's near the time that I started watching racing a little bit right around there. But no, that's pretty cool. What were I've always been curious, and as long as we've worked together now, because we started this agency. Gosh, we're going on our fifth year. So we've been around each other a lot. We've spent a lot of time together. But I've never asked you like what were the early days and experiences like working at Roush Yates, and I guess in specifically, your relationship with Doug, and I know how close you both are professionally, personally. But what are those stories like working for Doug in the early days, and then now you've been working with him for quite a while. Obviously, he's a great leader, but what's it like working with Doug and being a part of the Roush Yates culture, and what is that culture?
Yeah, I think it's the whole Yates family from Robert, Carolyn to Whitney, Doug, just really family oriented. I joined the company in 2007 and obviously spent a good amount of time with Robert, spent a good amount of time with Doug. And to me, it's a very family oriented culture place. Even if you see Doug walking down the hallway and there's a piece of paper on the floor, he's going to pick it up. Even if you're having lunch, right, he'll be the first one to come over and grab your plate and throw it away. So I think he's developed, right, a unique culture at Roush Yates Engines and Manufacturing Solutions where everybody feels valued. He spends a good amount of his time back in the dyno itself, so obviously he's well respected from the dyno room up front to the executive decisions that he has to make. So I've really enjoyed my tenure here. So again, been here since 2007 and look forward to many more years.
No, it's cool to hear. I mean, it's something that I'm aware of, and I don't think people hear this enough or that it's promoted enough. But from growing up around the Yates family and knowing Robert and being around Carolyn, and when I was a baby, I think they babysat me. I think they were the first ones that figured out that I had asthma growing up as a kid. I think I had an asthma attack at Robert and Carolyn's house and about flopped out down in their, like, they had like a gym or a fitness center down in their basement or something like that. But so we obviously go way back with the history that my dad has from working for their family and the family race team. Just remarkable people, and it's such a blessing to be, in these walls with our company, because we just consume that family dynamic and that work ethic and that attention to detail. And you mentioned it, walking down the hallway and picking up trash that's on the floor, right? Like it's treated like it's your own, and we take that really seriously. But what's, I guess, back with, spending time with Doug personally, professionally, I'm sure you probably don't want to share every story, but what's one of your best memories working for the company, or biggest successes, or a big win or something like that, and just sharing that moment with the Yates family and probably Doug and like Jeff Clark in particular?
Yeah, I think there's a few milestones that really come to mind. Each or every couple of years we try to do a partner summit, and one of the first ones we did was up at Fenway Park. So to see the Yates family out on the field itself and Fenway Park, recognizing them was pretty cool. We were able to take batting practice on the field, hit up against the Green Monster. And Ted Nugent was our kind of guest speaker at that event. And you think about people that join you, and a guest speaker might spend an hour with you, but he actually spent a day and a half with us. So that was an interesting adventure. So, on the partnership side, we continue to do things a little bit differently, and obviously that was one. Here a few years ago for our 20th anniversary, we had Oz Perlman. So he's a mind reader at best, and he spent about an hour and a half. So I think when I look at those moments outside of racing, those are some of the milestones. If you look at this year, 2005, at Talladega, when Austin Cindric was able to capture Roush Yates Engines NASCAR 200th point win, I think that was special for the company. Talladega, Daytona, Michigan are always special to the Yates family. Here, I think last year, Doug was actually able to drive the 88 championship car at Talladega.
Oh, yeah.
So there's several moments there that I think that I'll always remember, and it's really those good times that we get to celebrate in victory lane, or maybe it's something outside of racing that we just get to do something dynamic. And the other one that comes top of mind is being able to be at Le Mans and winning that championship with Ford Chip Ganassi Racing in road racing.
No, that's cool. I know, from my viewpoint, because obviously there's separation in our companies, but just I said this at the beginning, the leadership role and the mentorship that you provide our agency, and just that guidance, right? Like when we're looking at what to do with a driver and their career path and how we're representing them, to coaching us on what to do with brand partners, has been a major influence on our company. The reason I bring that up is one thing, and I'll be honest, I've been around motorsports, my entire life, and I mentioned obviously my connection with the Yates family from dad working for them to growing up around them. But ultimately, I've been naive. I didn't really understand to be honest, I didn't really understand exactly what all went into the partnerships of an organization like Roush Yates as a whole, right? So like from a day-to-day standpoint and a partnership standpoint, what does that look like, right? Like who are some of the partners that y'all work with? Obviously, I know you can't share everything, but ultimately, like, what does a partnership with Roush Yates look like, and how do you go about facilitating and managing those partnerships?
Yeah, partnerships on the engine side are similar to the car side. I think for us, we really have to leverage all the assets that we have. An example of a partner is Universal Technical Institute that's right down the street here in Mooresville, North Carolina. We've hired about 185 students out of that school itself. We actually get a really good opportunity to intern these individuals. Again, they come here, they work either at the engine shop, the manufacturing facility. It's really been a great resource today. And even today, if you look at 220 employees at Roush Yates Engines, 30% of those are UTI graduates. So again, that's a really successful partnership. In return, we do visit a good amount of campuses throughout the United States. I think they're up to 15 campuses now. We have a Roush Yates Power and Performance in each one of these classes. We've got some proprietary technology in these classes to kind of go back to power and performance. We take engines to sometimes these facilities, and even our local facility here in Mooresville, North Carolina, has about 20 FR9s that actually train these individuals to work. So again, that's a good example of a relationship. And I think, again, much like the race teams, just really leveraging all the assets we have. We're an engine-based company. We can send out mock-up engines. We can send out engines and actually tear them down at individual's facility, build them back up. We can create various types of content like a lot of the race teams. And obviously, Doug's a good brand ambassador as well.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Like I said, it was something that I didn't put two and two together, right? Because you take, unfortunately, I think a lot of us, I know I've been guilty of this. You take a lot for granted in this industry because you show up and there's a car, there's an engine. We're at the racetrack, driver hops in it. We obviously always are promoting our star power with the drivers, but there's so much more behind the scenes from a business perspective that goes into each of these companies, and to your point, not just the race teams, right? So I think that's helped. I can speak for our company, and that's helped us tremendously, thinking differently and strategically and detailed on what to do with drivers and brand partners on the agency side, right? And kind of switching gears to that a little bit, like, man, it's been, we talked about going on our 5th year and the role you serve and that mentorship and guidance that you provide us in leadership and direction. And it's been a lot of fun. I remember talking with you, years ago about this whole idea of not to use the word but what I wanted to do and where I felt like there was a void in representation in this industry, and not to be egotistical, but to thank you for that, because I remember sitting down with you and some other individuals, and I'll be respectful of those relationships, but sitting down and coming up with this whole idea from scratch with a blank sheet of paper and looking at, okay, what are we going to name this agency? What are we going to do? How are we going to stay in our lane? Because that is important, right? Because we all have responsibilities outside of the agency, and it's been a lot of fun, but it's been a lot of work, right? And work is fun. And what's the reason I kind of lay all that out is, I think from the Clear 28 side, what's been one of your more favorite memories, or I guess wins, when it comes to our driver and brand representation side of our business?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you. Right,
Yeah.
I feel like I'm more of a consultant than anything else, and obviously you're providing a lot of direction to our team and in leadership, and it's been a fun adventure. I remember when we first started, it was really maybe just me and you. Then we hired Corey, and we had 2 drivers at that time, I think Noah and Cole, and where we're at today. And I think even what we do today is a lot different than we started 5 years ago. I feel like when we first started the company, sponsorship was kind of number one, right? How do we continue to help these drivers really continue their career. And I think what Clear 28 does today is entirely different than anybody else, making sure these athletes really win off and off the racetrack. And I really appreciate your guidance there. And it's been an exciting time. What's exciting to me is coming to work and kind of going over ideas that we're doing for brands. I like the content that we're developing now. I like the story that you continue to guide and lead. To me, those are all wins. It's not only about winning on the racetrack, but it's how we win off the racetrack with various brands. I remember when we first put the Wendy's relationship together with Beard Motorsports, and we popped that on social media in a paint scheme, and that was 1 million views. I'm like, man, just out of a paint scheme, right? So I think some of the things that we continue to do that try to be disruptive in the marketplace are exciting. And again, I really appreciate your efforts and the whole team's effort to really ensure that these drivers are winning on and off the racetrack, as well as our brand partners as well.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And it's, man, it's been, like I said, it's been a lot of work. It's been a lot of fun. We've learned a lot. I know I've learned a lot along the way, but without you as a big puzzle piece of our company and what makes the full puzzle, I know we're not in this position. And that's why I wanted to sit down and talk to you more about it and reminisce a little bit and learn more about your background. And, I think one thing that stands out to me, outside of, which is, it goes hand in hand, but outside of you giving me feedback and coaching me up and trying to help me, find the path, right, and find the right direction to give to, share with our team here internally, but also with our drivers and brand partners that we work with. I've seen where you've made a huge impact on drivers and brands specifically, and coming in those coaching moments and giving them advice one-on-one, not always just channeling that through me, right? Like I've sat in the room, it's like, man, I want to flip out on this driver right now, just being honest. And because I can be a fiery guy, and Jarrett back here, he knows that. But I think I get that from my dad, but
I think that's the crew chief coming out.
Yeah, for sure. Doug knows that. And anytime we catch up and have a friendly conversation, I'm like, man, like, I feel like I sound like my dad. And he just kind of smiles at me because they worked together for a long time. But point being, I've always appreciated your ability to get your message across in a calm but direct way, right? And so what I wanted to ask you is, and this is helpful for a lot of young drivers, what would, if you were giving advice to a driver that's trying to climb the ladder and break into the sport, and what stands out to you that's most important to make a good go at this thing and try to climb the ranks? And what's the type of driver, and what advice would you give them that you would want to work with just with a clean sheet of paper?
Wow, that's a big question.
Yeah.
I think, to me, we're in a performance-based business, right? It's a lot about winning. For me, right, we need to make sure that our athletes start at a young age and really dominate and win where they're at. I think you would agree we don't want them to kind of move up too quickly, right? We want to make sure they're successful at every level. So I think that's one of the messages I have spoken to a few parents about, is really kind of find that path. And if that's maybe us helping them, that's maybe a different agency, or if the parents are doing it themselves. But let's try to put these athletes in the position to win, in the best position. And again, I think in our sport, sometimes drivers might come up a little bit too fast, but I think they need to kind of follow a pattern to get to the top of the ladder. So again, that's one of my biggest advices, is making sure that you're putting in the effort. To me, our sport is no different than any stick and ball sport. It's not just jumping in the race car. It's everything that you do to prepare before you get there. That goes back to mental coaching, that goes back to your health, that goes back to looking film. So again, that's, I think, important for all the athletes to know, is it's not just showing up at the racetrack. In my mind, is how do I develop myself off the racetrack? And then today within the sport, the better you are with sponsors, and maybe the more social media savvy, or you've really got a good brand or personality, all that matters. So I think, to me, attention to detail, but how do you really put yourself in the situation to win day in and day out?
So in your mind, that's a great answer. You answer that way better than I could have answered my own question. But in your mind, at the cup level right now, who is the best at doing all those things?
Whoa. I'm trying. Woo, baby. Let me have a beer.
You might not be allowed to answer that.
I think I'll stay away from it. Why don't I just say that I'll answer.
Who does a
I've
nice
got it.
job?
I'll do it, right?
Yeah.
I got to answer. When you look at drivers that are really doing a good job today, right? I really see the leaders and the championship guys that are running up front, right? I think they're winning on and off the racetrack. I've seen a good amount of those drivers, even flying up to Chicago this year. I had a championship driver beside me, and they were watching film, right, of last year's race all the way up there. And again, I mentioned this earlier with some of the younger athletes getting into the sport. It's winning on and off the racetrack. So to me, watching the film, flying to Chicago is a good example. But a lot of the Cup drivers are really doing a good job. A lot of the championship drivers are doing a good job, even for the DAP, right? I think this year was entirely new for the drivers, and majority of them put a lot of effort into that because we all want our sport itself to continue to grow.
Yeah, for sure. No, you did a good job navigating that, because I know that's a tough one, because to your point, if you're succeeding and winning at the Cup level, quite honestly, no matter what organization that you're at, you're doing your part, right? You have your stuff together. You're handling your business off track. You're showing up prepared on track, and you and I talk about this a lot. Is I think a lot of times in life, especially in any profession, you're looking for that fun moment, right? And it's like, for us, and I hope it's why I fit in over here with our company, with what we do on the agency side. But it is about winning, because winning's fun and working's fun, right? Like not to get off on a tangent, but it's interesting when people are just looking for that instant gratification. And back to your point, you take a look at, your Ryan Blaney's, your Joey Logano's. I would include Ross Chastain, from the work I do with him spotting over at Trackhouse. And these guys, they show up ready to dig their heels in, and they still have personality. They're edgy. They like having fun. Joey's out there cutting donuts in every single vehicle I think that he owns. And Ryan is somebody that you could go and have a Busch Light with anytime and enjoy yourself and have a good time, but he shows up ready to work. And I would agree with you on switching gears to the brand side, because obviously we work in both of those spaces, driver representation and representing brands in the sport, and just trying to find them the right home. What makes up a good recipe? If I'm a brand and I'm looking at getting into this industry, what ingredients do I need to have the perfect recipe to be successful in the sport? And I know that's tough, because there's a lot of different categories, but what's important? Is it team partnership, driver partnership? Is it something with a track? Like, what is that in your mind? Not to get you in trouble with anybody, but what is that? What's a good recipe?
Yeah, I think we've seen some of the most successful relationships in the sport really be dynamic. And what I mean by dynamic is maybe they do have a team partnership, right? Maybe they do have a PSA with the driver, but they've also got some sponsorship and some media buys, right? I go back to Outback Steakhouse, right? Bloomin' Onion, I think everybody remembers, right, for the giveaway with Kevin Harvick. So, Again, I think they did a good job of maybe kind of using a paintbrush and hitting the different outlets. It wasn't just Kevin, right? It wasn't just Stuart Haas. It wasn't just media. They really combined all those assets together. And I think the brands that we see that really perform that well are trying that dynamic approach, where they really try to attack all the assets that are out there, probably better leverage all the assets that are out there. So Wendy's, for us, I think, has been a really good example. I think most of us have seen their dynamic activation at Daytona and Talladega. They do a good amount of work with Fox during the season. And obviously, they currently have a relationship with Trackhouse, and Trackhouse continues to push the limits of a brand itself.
Yeah, no, that's a good answer. It's been eye-opening. I asked that because that's something you've given to our company, that thought process and that attention to detail, and just how to tie it all together. Because I think it gets really easy to go down this path of, okay, we have this race to sell. How do we sell it, right? Or, hey, one of our drivers has this race open. How do we go take care of that? And if you don't take a step back, I'm preaching to the choir, if you don't take a step back, it's like, what are we actually doing with this and what is it for? Then eventually the phone's going to ring and you're going to be asked, what did I get, right? Like what's the ROI and how does it all tie itself together? So definitely appreciative of that direction. As you look back at I know we're all over the holidays here, and as you look back at the 2025 season as a whole, what were some of the key moments for NASCAR? What were some of the big moments? And then as we look ahead to 2026, what are you excited about going into next year? Kind of looking out the rearview mirror, but then looking out the front window. What are those moments for you?
Yeah, and I'll start. I think we always say focus forward, right?
Yeah.
You can look back at the past and kind of live and learn, and even for the individuals to know, if you work at Roush Yates Engines, you always pull in, right? You don't back in, because if you back in, you're trying to figure out how to get out of there. So we talk a lot about trying to ride that momentum and really preparing for next year. Same thing on the agency side. I think this year's been a fantastic job. I think our social content, video content, I think your leadership, really we have excelled in a lot of areas, and I think a lot of times I remind our team is, man, look at everything that we've accomplished. And I think it's, when you're looking back, it's a good time to really kind of figure out is, hey, look, is this something that we missed, or something that we can do a better job of? I know with your leadership and direction, the team right now is starting to plan content for next year and really tell the Clear 28 story. Then after that, we can divide out. So I think for us, as we're hitting the reset, we're fast forward, right? We're moving pretty quickly, laying out plans for next season. I think that's the earliest in my mind we've ever done that. So again, I think as the years go on, we kind of continue to hone our skills, right? And I think we're getting faster, we're getting better, and we're preparing a lot quicker than we've ever done before. So I'm excited about next season. It's going to be a good season for the agency and our drivers and also our brands. And again, I think from a team perspective, our team, we look forward to growing together.
We talked about giving drivers some direction, brands, what to do with a partnership within Motorsports. I think, like, for fans, what's your recommendation if you had one ticket to go to one race? I mean, I think obviously Daytona 500 is huge for us. If it wasn't the Daytona 500, where would you spend your money and go? What would you go check out?
I think it's much like our brands. I think I would ask them some questions and maybe what they'd like to see, right? I think the big tracks like Daytona, Talladega, Michigan, right, are always exciting because of some of our highest horsepower, right, and fastest tracks, even though they've got the spacers on them. So those are the big tracks. I love the Bristol night race, right, one of my favorite, like going to Martinsville. And again, depending on who's going with you, Sonoma's a beautiful country out there. So again, there's all types of racetracks that we race at. So I think it really depends on the individual. But going back to some of our favorites, obviously the Daytona 500, right, our largest race, our Super Bowl race, and it's exciting to be there, and the atmosphere is very dynamic. Then after that, as I mentioned, Talladega and Michigan, but there's some others, like I mentioned, Bristol, Martinsville, Sonoma. It really depends on where you're at. Pocono, right, Loudon, there's some of those tracks out there that got a lot of campers, right?
Yeah.
If you want to camp out, there's plenty of opportunities. So I think it all depends. But we're going to put on a good show this year. Looking forward to going to San Diego.
Yeah.
Give NASCAR credit for going out and doing something different. If you look at when we raced in Chicago, I think there was a little bit of uncertainty when we did that. But year 2 and year 3, you walking through there and you see a lot of fans, a lot of kids, I'll put it that way, might not have never heard of racing before. For them to be able to experience that venue, I think that's fantastic for us as a sport and also for us as a competitor.
Yeah, no, well said. It's going to be a fun year. I personally, I'm really looking forward to San Diego for sure. I mean, all those markets you listed out are a lot of fun. I know Jarrett is going to miss the Chicago street race, but we'll have some fun out in San Diego. It'll be cool going out there to Coronado, and I haven't been out there in a long time, so that'd be something quite a bit different. But like I said, Todd, I wanted to spend some time with you and catching up. I feel like, your ability to connect the dots in so many different areas for your role at Roush Yates, for, like I said, your leadership with us and direction on the Clear 28 and helping us manage this company, right, is second to none. I see that a lot of people, even when you're doing entertaining and hosting guests and partners of y'all's at the racetrack, and also on the agency side taking care of our folks, there's not one person that doesn't come up to me after spending time with you that doesn't doesn't like just they love spending time with you, right? They love listening to your perspective. They love the way that you paint the picture of our industry. And quite honestly, I think you're one of the best in our industry, and that's why I wanted to have you on here and talk to you more about it and just tell you thank you. So in so many ways, I know not to be cliche or not to be cheesy, but I'll go back to, some of our brand pillars and being proven, driven, born to perform. And I feel like, man, you exude that more than anybody. So I really appreciate you and your friendship, and we'll wrap it up. I know Jarrett's chomping at the bit to be off of this and start prepping for a holiday party. So, but really appreciate you, Todd.
Awesome.
Yeah. Thanks,
Enjoy.
man.
Thank
you.